I'm Jubilee from Timu. Cover your ear, Jubilee is here! So, with the release of Marvel Rivals Season 9 and also the return of X-Men 97 Season 2, Jubilee have become more popular than ever. The new fans are start discovering her, and the long-time X-Men fan finally able to see she got the spotlight she always deserved. And today we are going to talk about everything Jubilee. So please stick around until the end of the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I really appreciate your support. And my name is Jubilee. Welcome to Carrot Universe. And today we are going to talk about Jubilation Lee. So let's go. So who is Jubilee? Before we dive into her story, let's answer the obvious question, who exactly is Jubilee? Her real name is Jubilation Lee, although everyone simply call her Jubilee. She first appeared in Uncanny X-Men issue number 244 back in May 1989, created by writer Chris Claremore and artist Mark Silverstreet. Now here is something a lot of people don't know. A lot of fans assume Jubilee debuted and only become popular because X-Men the animated series in the 90s. And don't get me wrong, that show really make her famous and a household name, but that's not where her importance came from. Before Jubilee, the X-Men already have a younger character who act as the audience eye into the mutant world, Kitty Pryde. And Kitty first joined the team, she was learning everything alongside the reader. We discover Xavier's school, the X-Men, and what it means to the mutant through her perspective. But as the year passed, Kitty grew, she became more experienced, more confident, and eventually one of the team leaders. She wasn't the new kid anymore. That's where Jubilee came in. When Chris Claremore introduced Jubilee in 1989, she naturally inherited that role. She wasn't there to replace Kitty as the character, she became the new point of view character for the reader. She asked the question we would and make mistakes that feel believable and learn what it truly means to be an X-Men right alongside with us. Then just a few years later, X-Men the animated series used Jubilee in almost the exact same way. Instead of introduce comic reader to the X-Men, she introduced millions of TV viewers to Marvel Mutant universe. In many ways, every new generation has had a chance to discover the X-Men through Jubilee. Now that actually an important time in X-Men history. The late 80s were when X-Men were becoming darker than ever. Stories were dealing with death, genocide, government persecution, and mutant discrimination. Reader had already seen tragedies like the Mutant Massacre and Fall of the Mutant, and the team was constantly fighting for survival. Then suddenly, here comes this loud, colorful teenage girl wearing a bright yellow trench coat, oversized pin sunglasses, fingerless glove, and enough attitude to annoy literally everyone. She chewed bubblegum, she cracked jokes, she ignored authority, she talked way too much on paper, she sounds like she is incredibly annoying. Instead, she became one of the most lovable X-Men ever created. And that because Jubilee brought something to X-Men desperately need, hope. She reminded reader that hero wasn't just soldier fighting endless war. There were people, especially teenagers, trying to figure out where they belong. In many ways, Jubilee become audience point of view, just like Kitty Pryde have been for reader in the early 80s. Jubilee became the new generation eye into the X-Men. She constantly asking questions, she learning alongside the audience, and because of that, we learn with her. And why so many fans who grew in the 90s connect to Jubilee for the entire generation, she was their X-Men. Now let's talk about how Jubilation Lee became part of the X-Men. Jubilee was born in Beverly Hills, California to two wealthy Chinese American parents. Unlike many mutants whose childhood was already filled with tragedy, Jubilee actually had a happy life growing up. Her parents loved her, she had the money, she lived comfortably. Everything seemed perfect until one horrible night. Her parent was murdered by a professional hitman. Exact reason behind the murder has changed slightly over different retelling, but the result stayed the same. Jubilee suddenly lost everything, her house, her family, her sense of safety. And because she was still a minor, her family asset became tied to the legal proceeding. Corrupt adults handling her inheritance weren't interested in protecting her. They were interested in the money. With nowhere else to go, Jubilee ran away. Instead of entering the foster system, she survived on the street of Hollywood and Beverly Hills. She stole food when she had to, she slept everywhere she could, she learned how to avoid dangerous people. Imagine that for a second. One day you living in a mansion, the next day you were homeless. Then, just when life couldn't get even more worse, her mutant power activated. For most mutants, discovering your power is exciting. For Jubilee, it made life even more dangerous. She had no idea what was happening. She couldn't control the explosion coming out of her hand. People start noticing, authorities start asking questions, and eventually someone much worse noticed her. This is where Jubilee's story really began. Around this time, the X-Men were believed to be dead by the rest of the world after the event fall of the Mutant. In reality, they were secretly operating for abandoned Australia outback town using advanced alien technology. One day, Jubilee wandered into the abandoned base while hiding from the group called the River. If you only watched the cartoon, let me explain. The River weren't just another gang of bad guys, they were cybernetically enhanced mercenaries who absolutely hate mutants. Led by Donald Pierce, they were responsible for some of the darkest moments in X-Men history. These people didn't arrest mutants, they hunt them, they torture them, they kill them, and now they're hunting a scared teenage girl. So Jubilee managed to sneak inside the abandoned X-Men headquarters and survive there by herself for days, leaving the River without them realizing she was even there. Think about that, how terrified that must have been for just a kid. She was trapped inside a base full of murderers, she barely knew how to use her own power, and if she got caught, she was dead. Out of every X-Men Jubilee have ever fought alongside, one relationship stands above all of the other, and that's it with Wolverine. And honestly, this is one of the greatest mentor-student relationship Marvel have ever written, in my opinion. When Wolverine first met Jubilee, he saw something familiar. She was alone, she lost her family, she tried acting tough, but underneath all that confidence, she was scared. And Logan understood exactly what that felt like. Instead of treating her like a burden, he took her under his wing. Eventually, Professor Xavier realized something important. Teenage mutants need an environment where they could actually grow up instead of constantly fighting world-ending threats. So after Fallen Covenant storyline in 1994, Jubilee became one of the founding members of Generation X. Their first appearance as a team was in Generation X issue number 1, 1994, created by Scott Lobdell and Chris Batchelor. So instead of returning to Xavier School, these young mutants were trained at Massachusetts Academy under Banshee and Emma Frost. Yeah, Emma Frost. If you know Emma today, it's easy to forget she used to be X-Men's biggest enemy. Generation X became important turning point for both characters. Emma slowly evolved from villain to a mentor, while Jubilee finally got a chance to grow alongside people her own age instead of constantly trying to keep up with the adult superhero. This is where we really see Jubilee become a leader. She formed close friendship with teammates like Skin, Sing, Monet St. Croix, Huss, M, and Chamber. She started making her own decisions. She gained confidence. She stopped being Wolverine Kate's sidekick. She became Jubilee. For many fans who grew up reading Marvel in the 90s, Generation X wasn't just another X-Men spin-off. It was their X-Men, and Jubilee was the heart of it. Unfortunately, Marvel have the habit of making mutants suffer. In House of M, Scarlet Witch reshaped reality before uttering the word that changed mutant history forever. The infamous word, "No more mutant." The aftermath became known as the M-Day. Almost the entire mutant population lost their power. Jubilee was one of them. Imagine finally accepting who you are, learning to control your ability, building your identity around being a mutant, and then waking up one day No explosion, no mutant abilities, nothing. For many heroes, that would be the end, but not Jubilee. Instead of disappearing, she kept fighting anyway. She joined a team that will call New Warrior and use advanced technology to stay and fight despite no longer having a mutant power. This chapter of her life captures who Jubilee is. Her power never made her a hero. Her choice did. Okay, now we are getting to one of the weirdest chapter of Jubilee history, because in comic book, during the Curse of Mutant storyline in 2010, Jubilee was attacked by the son of Dracula, Xeris. Instead of killing her, he turned her into vampire. Yes, Jubilee have become vampire, and honestly, fans are pretty divided about it. So this is also what Marvel Rival have taken from to explain how her power worked in the game. Some thought it completely ruined her character, others like saying Marvel pushed her into the completely different direction. Personally, I think what made this storyline interesting wasn't the vampire power, it was about Jubilee refused to lose. Even after becoming vampire, struggling with the bloodlust and dealing with the entirely new curse, she still tried to protect the innocent people. She tried to do the right thing. Her circumstances changed, her heart didn't. Eventually, during the event of X-Men Volume 4, issue number 1 until 6, 2013, Jubilee was entrusted with the care of the baby who had been targeted by supernatural force, and his name was Shogo, and this will change Jubilee's life forever. Shogo changed everything. One of my favorite part of Jubilee's story is something that almost never get talked about. She became a mother. Well, adoptive mother, but Jubilee officially adopted Shogo, and suddenly her priorities completely changed. It wasn't about becoming a better superhero anymore, it's about becoming a better parent. And honestly, watching Jubilee raise a child while still trying to be the X-Men gave her character so much level of maturity that we haven't really seen before. She wasn't the loud teenager in the yellow trench coat anymore, she was an adult. Someone that other people depend on, someone responsible for protecting the next generation just like Wolverine once protect her. It's beautiful, full circle moment. The scared kid who once needed a new family had finally become someone else's family. Now let's talk about why Jubilee is suddenly everywhere again. For years, she was one of those characters that comic readers appreciate, but casual Marvel fans didn't think much about. First, Marvel Rivals Season 9 has introduced Jubilee to a whole new audience of gamers. Players who may never ever pick X-Men comic are now seeing her abilities, personality, and energetic fighting style in one of the Marvel biggest games. Then there's X-Men 97. The original X-Men TAS make Jubilee one of the recognizable X-Men of the 90s, and now decade later, X-Men 97 have brought that version of character back for both long-time fans and entirely new generation. And that was amazing thing about Jubilee. Again, every generation seemed to discover X-Men through her. Comic reader in the 1989 and cartoon fan in 1992, and now gamer and streaming audience in 2026. For few Marvel characters have managed to stay relevant across so many different eras while staying feeling true to who they are. So where is Jubilee today in main Marvel universe? After the fall of Krakoa, the X-Men once again found themselves scattered across the world. Rather than staying with a single central team, many mutants form smaller groups with a different mission. Jubilee chose to stand alongside one of the people she trusts the most, Rogue. In the current Uncanny X-Men series written by Gail Simon, Rogue has established a new X-Men team based in Haven House located in Louisiana, and Jubilee is one of the core members. Fighting alongside her are familiar faces like Rogue, Gambit, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine, and several younger mutants who are trying to find their place in the world that still fear them. And honestly, I think this is the perfect place for Jubilee. She no longer the scared teenager hiding from the mutant hunter. She no longer just a Wolverine student. She become one of the veterans, one of the people that this younger mutant can look up to. In a way, her story have become a full circle. She started as the young mutant learning from the X-Men. Now she one of the X-Men helping guide the new generation. So what is my thought on Jubilee? Personally, I think Jubilee is one of the Marvel most misunderstood character. People look at her colorful jacket, her sunglasses, her joke, her firework, and they assume she's just a comic relief. But if you actually read her story, you know that's not true. She experienced more losses than any superhero have. She lost her parents, she lost her home, she lost her mutant power, she even lost her humanity for time because becoming a vampire. And yet she never become bitter, she never stopped believing people who worth saving. And something I really admire about her, because optimism isn't easy, especially after everything she had been through. Jubilee chose hope, and again and again, and that is the real strange. Not shooting bigger explosion, not defeating strongest villain, choosing hope when life keep knocking you down. To me, that's what make Jubilee an X-Men. I love you guys, and please do subscribe. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Once again, I'm gonna tell you guys, please subscribe this channel. If you like the video, yeah, let's go.